Host of Off 63rd and tonight's conversation, Garrard McClendon.
Good evening. Good evening, I'm Garrard McClendon, and welcome to an evening with Tavis Smiley here at the Kennedy King Theater in Chicago. Not just a talk show host and author, Tavis runs several foundations, a speakers bureau, and a publishing company. But tonight, Tavis will reveal the more authentic side of success, the side that fails first and triumphs later. Tavis joins us to discuss his book, Fail Up, 20 Lessons on Building Success from Failure. Let's give a seriously enthusiastic and warm Chicago welcome to a man who inspires us all, Mr. Tavis Smiley. Yes, sir. Tavis, the book is called Fail Up. Define failure for us.
Yeah.
And then we'll look at success, and then we'll look at greatness.
Sure. Failure, in another word, a single word, synonym, is preparation. All that failure is preparation. I've learned, and I argue in this book, that sometimes what we see as a dead end is really a finish line. Sometimes what we see as rejection is really redirection. I say in the book that sometimes in life we plan and God laughs. You want to make God laugh? Tell him your plan and watch what he does. So sometimes God has in mind and in store for us things that are even greater than what we had in mind for ourselves. I once ran for city council. I thought my life was to be an elected official. I ran for city council in LA. I lost. And I was devastated at 26. I'm 26 years old, Gerard. I think my life is over at 26 because I lost a city council race. I realized sometime after that rejection was redirection. I wouldn't be sitting here now talking to you on national TV and national radio and best-selling books and traveling around the world. I don't demean public service. I think it's a noble profession. But I know that God had something greater for me, and if I had still been sitting somewhere sobbing about having lost that council race, I wouldn't be here. If I'd been sitting around sobbing after BET fired me, then PBS and NPR and all that would never have come. So again, sometimes rejection is actually redirection. And another word for failure is really preparation. It's preparing you for the next step. Babe Ruth put it this way, the great baseball player: every strike gets me closer to the next home run.
I like that. You know what, Tavis, let's move right into your definition of failure and how it can help us. But let's look at how some successes in life may be hindrances. Explain.
Yeah, I think sometimes success is actually harder than failure. It's harder than failure. The first chapter in this book is about humility, a lesson my mother taught me when I was just a 12 or 13-year-old kid. The short end of that story is that before honor comes humility. If you would be honored in your life, if you would receive honor or accolade in your life, before any of that, first must come humility. The bigger you get, the harder it is to be humble. When people are telling you all that and then some, and Gerard opens up a show and says, ladies, how handsome is he in person? You know, all that kind of stuff can go to your head. So it's hard to remain humble the more successful you become. So that the way to navigate the ups and the downs, to your brilliant question, is not to take the downs too seriously, not to take the ups too seriously. Stay focused on your calling, your vocation, your purpose. Don't take either one of them, the ups or the downs, too seriously.
Where is Mama? Where is she in the audience?
Whoever has a gorgeous St. John suit on.
Where's Mama?
That's her.
There she is.
There she is.
Yes. Let me tell you this right now. I am so glad, Mama, that you taught him that pencil box lesson. Now, see, you got to get the book. Some people don't know about that pencil box. Explain the pencil box quickly to us, Tavis.
I grew up in an all-white community, basically, in this trailer park. And as a kid, I had insecurities because we were poor, because we were the only black family, basically, in this neighborhood. I was having insecurity issues, and I was expressing those insecurity issues with a certain sense of bravado and braggadocio and kind of in-your-face, sort of a precocious kid that wasn't always the easiest to get along with, because I would put my braininess in your face, my wit in your face. I know y'all find that hard to believe. But I would do that. And long story short, my mother sat me down one day and gave me a pencil holder that I still have, a little wooden 4-hole pencil holder. And the words etched on the pencil holder said, "It's hard to be humble when you're as great as I am." And she gave it to me as a gift, and I read it, and I was like, yes, when you're as great as I am. And she said, "Baby, sit down and read it again." I read it again. I read that thing 6 times before I realized that my mother was not exactly paying me a compliment. She was trying to teach me a lesson about humility and about reveling in the humanity of other people. And then she hit me with that Bible verse out of Proverbs that I still recall to this day. "Let another man praise thee and not thine own lips. Let another man exalt thee and not thine own mouth." As you move through life, if you're going to be whatever you are supposed to be, you've got to remain humble. You've got to learn how to revel in the humanity and indeed speak truth to power regarding the suffering of other people. It can't be about you.
Okay, let's talk about humility. We're going to get right into this humility right now, because the great Tavis Smiley, the man we see on television every night, was arrested for writing bad checks. Come on, T. Talk to us about that. What happened?
I'm the first person on either side of my family to go to college, my mother or my father, first one in my family to go to college. And that was a struggle, which is a whole other story in the book. But it was a struggle getting there. As is the case with too many young people when they hit college campuses, you well know, the first thing that happens is, before you can even register for class, they're throwing credit cards at you, bank accounts, checking accounts, every financial tool and trick in the box they're throwing at you. Long story short, I didn't know, we didn't have any money growing up. I didn't know the first thing about managing money. So I did not know the basics of how to balance a checkbook. And I wasn't doing anything malicious. I wasn't running some Bernie Madoff Ponzi scheme. I was literally writing $7.14 checks for pizza. Sausage, pepperoni, extra cheese. The way I still eat it. But I'm writing a $7.14 check for pizza. And I didn't know how to balance a checkbook, and I got caught with a few of those checks not being covered. I didn't know what overdraft protection was at that time. So the Bloomington police, or Bloomington, Indiana, where IU is, Indiana University, they had a sting going on for check kiting. I didn't know what check kiting was. Just bad time, wrong place, wrong time. I only had a few checks out. They were going after real check kiters, but my name came up on this computer list of not having checks covered. And I got arrested, went to jail. Now, you know, there was no way in the world, being the first person in my family to go to college, and I'm basically the big brother of these 10 siblings, these 9 siblings that I have. I was so embarrassed and so humiliated by that my mother and father didn't know that story basically until this book came out.
Wow.
So I had to call them and say, do not go into full cardiac arrest when you read some things about your son that you did not know. But again, the point is that sometimes in life these failings are so embarrassing and so humiliating that we don't even want our family or friends to know about it, much less start to deal with them ourselves.
Let's go back to Indiana University, Bloomington. First in your family to go to college, either side, one of the last to graduate. You were hiding the fact that you did not graduate. You walked with the cap and gown, but didn't quite have the credits to get the diploma. Tavis, what's up with that, man?
I know. At IU, Gerard, these easy questions, man, you got to stop. You are killing me with these softball questions. At IU, as is the case with a number of institutions, once you get a couple credit hours away from graduating, as you know, they'll let you march, and you have to finish the coursework over the summer. That's what I had intended to do. In the interim, Tom Bradley, the late, great mayor of Los Angeles, called and offered me a job. So I had to decide whether or not I was going to actually stay there for another semester and finish this degree, or go to LA and take this job with Tom Bradley, who I was dying to work with, who I respected and revered, the first black mayor of this major city, LA. My parents, there's a picture in my office right now on the wall, my mother and father and me on my graduation, picture in the book of my mother and father and me on graduation day after I walk across the stage at Indiana University. So my mother and father and my family thought that I'd officially graduated. And 16 years later, 16 years, I still didn't officially have that degree. When y'all were watching me every night on BET and listening to me on Tom Joyner and put me on the New York Times bestseller list, I still had not completed that degree. But I could hear my grandmother in the back of my head. I could hear her especially on those days when my brothers and sisters who I paid for to go to college, I'm sitting at Morehouse watching my brother who I paid for walk across the stage with his degree. I'm sitting in the audience at Hampton watching my brother, who I paid for his degree, to walk across the stage. I'm going to Indiana University watching my sister walk across the stage. I'm paying for my siblings to go to college, but my own secret is that I haven't actually finished my degree, but I could hear Big Mama in the back of my head,
Yes.
Gerard, saying to me consistently, Tavis, once a task you have first begun, never finish until it's done. Be the labor great or small, do it well or not at all. And just so you know, I finally got my degree, y'all.
Yes. Yes. Tavis Smiley, college graduate. You know what? While you're quoting, let's go into the Samuel Beckett quote that is so fond to you, and then I've got a follow-up question after you recite it.
The quote simply from Samuel Beckett, great writer, poet, Nobel laureate. Beckett put it this way: ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again, fail again, fail better. Try again, fail again, fail better. Try again, fail again, fail better. I believe that every day that God blesses you to wake up, what he's really giving us is another chance to fail better.
That's right. That's right. I believe that. You know what, Tavis? The great Samuel Beckett also wrote an amazing play called Waiting for Godot.
Waiting for Godot.
Wow.
Yeah.
And there's two characters in the play, and they're simply waiting for Godot, and Godot never shows up. So my question, Tavis, is when we put things off, when we procrastinate, delay finishing something, are we waiting for Godot? What do you think?
Yeah. I think that failure does not have to be fatal, as I said earlier. It doesn't have to be final unless you give it the last word. There's nothing in life, I believe, that we do, nothing, Gerard, I believe that we do, that we cannot recover from. Every day, again, you wake up, you get another chance to fix today what you left undone yesterday. Whatever you didn't do right yesterday, you get a chance to do it right today. As a matter of fact, I pray the same prayer every morning. I mean, I'm praying all the time, but there's a part of my prayer that is consistently the same. It's consistent every day, and it simply goes like this: that Father, when the evening comes, I pray it every morning. Father, when the evening comes and the night falls, let me be able to look back on this day and see something that I have done that I can present to you that might not make me feel so ashamed. Every single day I want to do something small, something large, but something that I can present to him at the end of the day before I go to sleep that might not make me feel so ashamed. Every day that you wake up, if you process every day like that every day you're just trying to get something done that you can present to your Creator, it won't make you feel so ashamed. Ashamed of what? Of all the gifts he's given you, of all the talent he's given you, of all the grace and mercy he's extended to you. You don't want to feel ashamed to not have done something in that day to honor what he's blessed you with.
So, Tavis, do we put more limits on ourselves than God puts on us?
I think that we are not human and divine. Our Creator made us that way. I don't think that the demand from our Creator is for us to be perfect. None of us is perfect. We are called upon and are challenged to be complete human beings. Those things about you that you know can be made better, those areas of your life where you know you can fail better, I believe our Creator wants us to be complete in our walk as human beings. But there is no such thing as a perfect human being. So that when you put pressure on yourself to be perfect, you're killing yourself.
Yeah.
What the goal ought to be, it seems to me, with humility, is to try to be complete. And that's what this book is all about. In those areas of my life, personally, professionally, with regard to my character, my work ethic, my outlook, my reveling in the humanity of other people, what I'm trying to do every day is to get better, to become a more whole and a complete person.
Tavis, let's talk about self-esteem. And just want to show of hands, who's a Muhammad Ali fan out there? Boxers. Who's a boxer? You see, look at that.
The champ.
Nearly the whole audience. And it's interesting, Tavis, because I am a huge fan of Muhammad Ali as well. Some days I'll gaze through this book and just look at the magnitude of greatness that Muhammad Ali gave us. You open up your book, first chapter of the book, talking about Muhammad Ali. Let's talk about the influence that the greatest had on you.
My father was a big Ali fan, and my father was still is the hardest working man I've ever known. To support a family of 10 kids and his mother-in-law and never complained about it. The hardest working man I've ever known. I love him, respect him dearly for that. I get my faith from my mother. I get my discipline from my father. He's a hard worker. And when he did have time to just sit and put his feet up, which is very rare, he wanted to do it watching an Ali fight. And I would sit with my dad and watch these Ali fights. Back in the day, Howard Cosell, ABC.
Yes.
This is long before pay-per-view, thank God. We couldn't afford that. I would never have seen Ali if it was on pay-per-view back then. But I was able to watch Ali on network television. And what I loved about him was his confidence, that bravado, that braggadocio. It got me in trouble, as I said earlier, when I was younger, trying to be Ali-like in school. But as I look back on it, what I really loved about him was his confidence as a black man in the world, number one. Number two, I love most about him his truth-telling. Ali would tell the truth no matter what the price was. I love three, his courage. Ali said, I am not going to Vietnam to fight. The Viet Cong ain't done nothing to me. I'm not going.
That's right.
He stood in his truth. They stripped him of his belt. They tried to take his living away from him. And Ali said, I'm going to stand right here in my truth until y'all wake up and figure out that I am who I say I am, and I'm not going to change. How many athletes today?
Whoa, you will come, that's not, whoa, come on, Tavis.
I love D. Rose. I love LeBron. I love D. Wade, Kobe. But would any of them say, take my, at the prime of their career, prime, take it. Whoa. You can have it. I'm going to I said the truth. I'm going to stand in the truth. Y'all deal with it. And when y'all get done arguing about it, I'm going to be right here. And then when they finally came back to him and he wins in the Supreme Court, this Negro goes back into the ring and starts knocking Negroes out again. And gets the, I mean, how can you not respect Muhammad Ali?
It doesn't get any better than that. Absolutely. Yeah, truly. Tavis, President Barack Obama, first African-American president, United States history. There was the perception that there was beef between Tavis Smiley, the talk show host, and President Barack Obama. It's noted in the book Accountable, and of course it's been noted in radio and television. A large portion of the African-American community was like, who does that Tavis think he is?
I heard that.
Criticizing my president. So I need you to clarify this for the people in Chicago. How dare you, Tavis Smiley? Were you asking for African Americans to be critical thinkers, or did you genuinely have beef with President Barack Obama?
I like where you phrased that because there was this perception. But as you and I also know, and I cop to this, perception is reality. And so I accept that, and that's why I write about it in this book. I have never felt the need ever to defend myself. My mother, who I quote in this book, said to me when I was going through that, baby, the truth never needs to be defended. The truth does not need a defense. If you're going to tell the truth, stand in the truth. Realize that we don't all wake up at the same time. But if it's true today, it's going to be true tomorrow. Just stand in your truth. You don't need to defend yourself. So based on Mama's advice, I didn't make the rounds on TV, radio, or the blogosphere ever responding to all that was said about me. And you know, I was called everything but a child of God. But I never, ever responded anywhere until now because I didn't think I needed to defend the truth. Here's the bottom line. Senator Obama's job at the time was to run for the White House and win. I'm glad he did. My job at the time, as it had been before he came on the scene, was to hold people accountable to the best interest of African Americans and other people. But for this instance, African Americans. That's where the beef jumped off, as you said. So here's the bottom line. It's hard to remember, Gerard, how much black people loved Bill Clinton because we now love Barack Obama so much. We forget how much we were in love with Bill Clinton. When Clinton sat on his hands and didn't go into Rwanda, when genocide was taking place, on BET and on Tom Joyner, I jumped all over Bill Clinton. When he sandbagged Lonnie Guinier and pulled the rug from under her, on BET and Tom Joyner, I jumped on Bill Clinton. When he passed that racist crime bill, you got to get caught with 100 times more powder cocaine than crack for the same sentence, I jumped on Bill Clinton. When Bill Clinton signed that welfare bill, I jumped on Bill Clinton, etc., etc., etc. Not one time in all the years of BET and Tom Joyner did one black person anywhere say to me, you can't hold the president accountable. You're too hard on Bill Clinton. Don't go there with Bill Clinton. Nobody said that. They understood that I respected him, but I had to hold him accountable. Barack Obama shows up, a black man, and all of a sudden, and let me just add it right quick, and I want to speak truth to power here. Black people weren't even down with Barack Obama until the white folk in Iowa said he's okay.
Make it plain.
Go back and check the facts. When he won in Iowa, it's like that old adage that the white man's ice is colder.
It's colder.
When the white folk in Iowa said this Negro is all right, then black people started wearing Obama hats, Obama tea. Because in Iowa, Hillary was still trailing. He was still trailing Hillary in Iowa 3-1 in national polls with black people. He's behind Hillary until he wins. Let me get this out right quick. So in Iowa, he wins. Now we all act like we've been down with Obama since day one. And at that point, I can no longer say anything. I can't ask critical questions. I can't raise issues. Keep in mind now, before Obama comes on the scene, The Covenant with Black America is the #1 best-selling book in America. All of us, millions of us, have bought The Covenant. This is our agenda. And whoever runs for president, we're going to hold them accountable to this agenda. Unless, of course, he's a black man named Barack Obama, then we're going to chuck the book out the window and not ask anything. So I got taken to task for doing with Obama what I'd done with Clinton and Gore and Kerry and Dukakis and God knows Bush and all the Republicans. So I didn't change at all, but people jumped on me for doing what I'd always done.
But don't our people deserve a pass? Come on, we've been downtrodden. We've gone through 400 years of slavery, Tavis. We've been oppressed, we've been suppressed, we've been depressed.
And what I heard consistently was, Travis, shut up.
Yeah.
let the man get in first. Yeah. He got to get in. He can't do nothing until he gets in. Why don't you go sit down somewhere, shut up, and let him get in? The same Negroes who were saying let him get in are now saying, you just wait till the second term.
Yeah. Good point.
He's going to do something in the second term.
And you know what, Tavis? It's almost like a beyond the underdog, too, because if we look back, and you've said this on many occasions, you look at how Bobby Rush served
him up.
President Barack Obama for that Congress run.
What I've said is that Barack Obama is the poster child for failing up. He's a poster child. Bobby Rush beat the brakes off Barack Obama here in Chicago, as y'all well know. In 2000, a few years later, he couldn't get in the building in LA where I live for the Democratic Convention. He said, he's told this story many times. He could not get into the building, had no credentials. Outside the building, trying to get his hustle on to get into the Democratic Convention in 2000. In 2008, he is the President of the United States of America. If that ain't failing your way up, I don't know what is. But here's the thing. and I am mad. I'm glad he's our president. Here's the bottom line. And I quote my friend Cornel West. This sums up my whole framework and formulation on President Obama, who I respect. Dr. West puts it this way, Gerard. We have to respect the president. We have to protect the president. But we have to correct the president. I have always respected Barack Obama as senator, as president, and before that, 12 years before that, as my friend, who worked with my foundation for young people. I've known him for 15 years. We've worked together. So I've always respected him. When this birther, vulgar, vicious, racist nonsense jumped off, I was everywhere protecting him. So much so, and my mama didn't know this either, that I had to beef up my own security over the last few months because the death threats that I received, that the federal government called me about to tell me that they were getting death threats. And the LAPD came out to my office in LA because they were getting death threats. So I'm respecting him always. I'm protecting him to the point of getting death threats myself. And then I believe also in correcting him. And we got to mature in our community to understand that whoever the president is, black, white, or otherwise, we got to always respect the president, always protect the president against vicious attacks, but we got to correct the president in love.
And so often, African Americans, we give too many passes on things that can be nefarious or detrimental to our communities, whether it's some of the items that you just mentioned or whether it's someone playing their stereo too loud in the community, if someone litters in the community.
I agree with you. We give too many passes. And all I've said is this. I want Barack Obama to be a great president. Not just a good president, a great president. But Gerard, great presidents aren't born, they're made.
Yes.
They've got to be pushed into their greatness. There is no Abraham Lincoln if there is no Frederick Douglass pushing him. There is no FDR if there is no A. Philip Randolph from Chicago pushing him. There is no LBJ if there is no MLK pushing him. I don't want Barack Obama to be just another garden variety politician. With a divided Congress, I don't want him to start this Clinton triangulation. He promised us, and I believe that this could be a transformative moment, not just a symbolic moment. You can have the symbolism. I want the substance. I want this moment to be transformative. And this moment, it won't happen. This will not be a transformative moment. We will look up at the end of 4 years or 8 years, and I promise you this, the numbers will bear this out, that it was about more symbolism than substance. The numbers are not suggesting starting with black unemployment. If you ain't got a job, everything else falls flat.
Yes.
The numbers are going to tell us the story a few years from now, that while we celebrated the symbolism, we didn't get the substance, and we're going to be looking at each other like, what was that all about?
You know what, Tavis? We're going to transform the moment right now, because Chicago is in the building, and I'm going to give these people the opportunity to ask Tavis Smiley some questions. It's time to give this audience of critical thinkers the opportunity to ask Tavis whatever you wish. We ask that your questions or comments be respectful and direct. Please raise your hands, and when called, step to the microphones in the aisles. Our audience producers will give you instructions. So as they make their way to the microphone, don't be bashful. I see some hands coming up already. I see some Chicago Bulls in the audience tonight. My goodness, this is awesome. Tavis, while they're getting to the mics, let me ask you this just quickly here. I want you to give me some one-word answers or one-sentence answers. When you hear the name Muhammad Ali, what do you think?
The greatest.
Oprah Winfrey.
Entrepreneurial genius.
Michael Jordan.
The best to ever play the game.
Steve Jobs.
Innovator.
Dr. Cornel West.
My hero.
Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. Gentleman to the left here. Please state your name, sir.
Hi, Tavis. My name is Ali Uberi from West Africa originally. It was a pleasure really seeing you today and listening to you all the time on the radio.
Thank you.
On Sundays. I'm really interested to know a little bit more about your youth programs that you're operating. Here in the south side of Chicago, we definitely need a lot of that. A lot of the young men are being completely on the sideways. People don't expect a lot, about themselves because society don't expect a lot about themselves, these kids. What exactly can we do in conjunction with what you're doing with your organizations here to do something for these kids in Southside Chicago?
That's awesome.
Thank you for the question.
That's awesome.
Our foundation is called the Tavis Smiley Foundation. We do one thing and only one thing. We work with young people, Gerard, on helping them develop their leadership potential. And we start these young people when they're 13. Every summer, I travel the country speaking for free to young people all the time. But every summer in Los Angeles, we move around from place to place. But this summer, 2011, in Los Angeles, on the campus of UCLA, we're taking it over, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids, 13 to 18, will come to LA for just over a week for this Leadership Institute to learn how to be a leader. We have a very simple definition of leadership in our company, in our foundation. It goes like this. You can't lead people unless you love people. And you can't save people unless you serve people. You can't lead folk unless you love folk. And you can't save folk unless you serve folk. So the only things that matter to me if you want to be a leader, one, what is the depth of your love for everyday people? And secondly, what is the quality of your service to them? So we work with young folk all across the country, helping them to learn how to love and serve people. If you go to our website at tavistalks.com, you can learn all about our foundation's work, about the Leadership Institute this summer. I met Barack Obama, as a matter of fact. When he came, I was in Chicago years ago, and he asked to meet with me because he wanted to learn more about our foundation, and that's how he and I started working together. He came to be a part of my foundation work, helping young people develop their leadership capacity, and that's why I respect him and respect his work for so many years. But our foundation, we work with young people all across the country. I love it. Of all the things I do, it gets the least amount of press. When you talk about the president, you make headlines. When you're on TV, people watch you every night. When you're on radio, they listen to you all the time. But the foundation work with these young people is the thing I'm proudest of. It gets the least amount of attention, but it's the thing that means the most to me.
Before I take the next question, Tavis, just quickly, why are internships so important? I love the gentleman's question. Internships, quickly, how do they affect you as a young person, and why do you have them now?
Most of the great opportunities that I have started out as internships, starting, frankly, with an internship in the office of the president of Indiana University. I learned a lot, made some great connections. I interned for the mayor of Bloomington, Indiana. Got some great connections and used that to get an internship with the mayor of Los Angeles, Tom Bradley. I've got 7 or 8 different companies that I own, and every one of those companies has a very strong and vibrant internship program. They mean a great deal to me because I believe that you learn by getting hands-on opportunity. My great radio producer, Cheryl Flowers, a black woman, 42 years of age, died just a couple of years ago of breast cancer, triple-negative breast cancer. Her doctor, as a matter of fact, her specialist was here in Chicago. She passed away a couple of years ago, and we just literally announced a 6-figure scholarship at Clark Atlanta University, where she went to school, in her name. And I was just in Atlanta the other day, and the first person to receive that scholarship, a paid internship, I met in Atlanta the other day, and she's coming out to work with us in the name of Cheryl Flowers. So we're serious about internships.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Hi, my name is Victoria Rouse, and on May 16th, on the truthdig.com website, your friend and brother, Dr. Cornel West, allegedly stated, "I think my dear brother Barack Obama has a certain fear of free black men." And I'd like to know whether or not you agree with that statement, and if so, why? Thank you very much.
I like the directness of your question. Dr. West, you say he allegedly said that, and I appreciate your journalistic instincts. He did, in fact, say that. He has stood by what he said, and I understand the point that Dr. West is making. And here's the short answer. When my white progressive friends, when Dr. West's white progressive friends offer a critique of this president, it is labeled as principled. I'm talking now about Paul Krugman, who pushes Obama every day in the New York Times. Maureen Dowd, Frank Rich, Amy Goodman, run the list. When my white progressive friends critique the president, Gerard, it's principled. When Cornel West or Tavis Smiley does it, it's personal. Can I just tell y'all, I'm like Fannie Lou Hamer. I am sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of being told that just because we raise questions, trying to hold this president accountable, trying to help push him into his greatness lovingly, just because we raise questions, we got a personal beef with the president. But when our white progressive friends raise the same questions, read that article on truthdig.com. There's nothing that Dr. West said, Gerard, that my white progressive friends haven't said the same. He has his own way of saying it because he's a brilliant scholar. But when we talk about unemployment, these wars, siding with the strong over the weak, his friends on Wall Street, Geithner and Summers and others in the White House, the critique that Dr. West has leveled against this president is really no different than the progressive white critique of this president. But white folk can say it and it's principled, but 2 black men say it and we got a personal problem. It's beneath us to even make that comparison. It's insulting to Dr. West's intellect that he can't make a principled argument. And as black folk, we got to mature and stop acting like every Negro who asks a question of the president has got a personal problem with him. It's principle, y'all. It's principle.
Principle, and iron sharpeneth iron. That's the bottom line.
That's my sense.
That's absolutely. You know, Audre Lorde, the great poet, said, "If I love you, I have to make you conscious of the things you don't see." And so many times, if you can't take that criticism, then you need to get out of the game.
And I will only add to that right quick. And this is a matter of public record. I wouldn't say this but for the fact that the sister asked about it, because it's not my issue, so you don't see me run around the country talking about this. But it is interesting to note that Sean Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, and Bill O'Reilly and others have been to the White House on more than one occasion, invited by this administration. Cornel West has not been invited. As a matter of fact, they had a fireside chat. The Obamas have brought back to the White House these old days, these old school fireside chats. They had a fireside chat with black scholars. How are you going to have a group of black scholars in the White House? Scholars. The first two folk you invite have to be, among others, Skip Gates and Cornel West. Dr. West didn't even get invited to a scholar, black scholar conversation. So he's not been invited. I've not been invited, but Hannity, O'Reilly, and Rush have been there. And you all know this because you've seen it. O'Reilly has had 2 or 3 interviews with the president. And every time he gets one, he disrespects Barack Obama as president, cutting him off, won't let him finish. Y'all saw the Super Bowl interview, Super Bowl Sunday. So the point is that these folk, the president will give interviews to. These folk, when Paul Krugman and Maureen Dowd and Ariana Huffington, my friends, critique the president, I know this because they've told me. Fareed Zakaria on CNN, as you know, got in trouble the other day for giving the president counsel. The president's talking to Fareed Zakaria, getting advice from him. So he talks to these progressive persons in the media to get their understanding. Maureen, Paul, Tom Friedman, why did you write that? Why did you say that? Come to the White House, let's have tea. But when West says it, or Tavis says it, you don't get invited, and you get labeled as having a personal beef with him. We can't have 2 standards. I'm a free black man. Dr. West is a free black man, and we don't play that.
Yes, yes. Yes, thank you so much for answering that question in totality. Yes.
My name is Deborah Devon, and this is a little bit of a transition question. You came, we'll say it from way back when, you've come from good stock, and we're dealing with what it takes to make good family. What is your prescription for the family today? I know that Bill Cosby had some things to say which were rather rough, and I'm sure you've got a perspective. What's your prescription?
Yeah. It's a tough question. I'm the last person, since I ain't got one yet, I'm the last person to give a dissertation about family. My mother would be much better to answer that question. I think my mother, if she were here on stage and answer this question, would say it all starts with love. What my parents exhibited to me was love. And I could give a very long answer, but at the end of it, we're going to come right back to love. Here's the bottom line. If again, we're being honest with each other, we are, every one of us in this room, Gerard, we are who we are because somebody loved us. We are who we are because somebody loved us. It might have been your mother and or your father or your grandmama or the neighbor next door, or your aunt and uncle who you were sent to live with. I don't care who it was. Every one of us is who we are because somebody loved us. And if we don't get back to having that kind of love inside our families, no matter what size or shape or framework they take, if the love is absent, then we can't solve any of these problems.
Yes, yes, good, good. Yes, sir.
Hey, how you doing,
Hey,
Tavis? My name is Dwayne Hirsch. I'm a host of a local talk show that's built around professional networking and people who kind of take their own lives into their own hands and make jobs for themselves, particularly in this economy. What I want to ask you about is a few years ago, there was a statement made by the president of Mexico about the fact that Mexicans will take jobs that our people won't take. And you speak about the president's approach to unemployment, to black unemployment, or not addressing that issue. But I think that there's a lot of things that we are not addressing as a people, whether it's not being addressed in the spiritual house, in the church. But can you speak a little bit about the things that keep us from taking the landscaping job, the menial job that really can change those numbers and help to change our own reality?
2 quick answers. One, I agree with you. Let me put it this way. I believe that there is dignity in all work. There is dignity in all honest work, number one. There's dignity in it. I don't care what it is. There's dignity in it, number one. Number two, to what we can do. See, that's why I get so frustrated about this Tavis Obama drama. Because, I repeat what I said earlier very quickly, we had laid out this thing called the Covenant with Black America. That was not about Barack Obama or anybody else. The covenant was, this is a covenant that we're making with ourselves, with each other, and with our Creator. This is what we are going to do to take control of our own destiny. And everybody around the country seemed to buy into that. And we put that document together to say to whoever ran for president, Republican or Democrat, black, white, red, brown, and yellow, where do you stand on the issues that matter to us? So we had a plan. We had a document. We had this all laid out. And it's not his fault. You know, he had a right to run. I'm glad he ran. I'm glad he won. I supported him. But when the president, when the then senator shows up, just because he was black, the plan that we had laid out, that we said we were going to follow, our guidebook, our blueprint, it all went out the window. But we had a plan. And now I guess the plan is to think that Barack Obama is going to solve all of our problems And even if he doesn't, we still going to run to the polls and support him while not holding him accountable on the issue. I tell you, I'm not going to lie about this, Gerard. I get it because I'm not stupid, contrary to popular belief. I'm not naive, contrary to popular belief. But I do not understand how it is that black people can be dying and somehow we think that we should not raise our voices and say to the president and to the body politic, we demand better. We are the most loyal part. We are the most loyal part of your constituency. Black people. When the Jews want you to stand on their side of the issue on Israel, you've done it. When gays and lesbians wanted you to overturn Don't Ask, Don't Tell, you've done it. And he should have done it. I support that. Should have done it a long time ago. Took him too long to do it, but he finally got around to doing it. When Wall Street came a-calling, you responded. When the auto industry came, you responded. A week or two ago, big speech on immigration, you're responding. But he's afraid to even talk about black unemployment. Why? Because he's afraid of being accused of being tribal. He's afraid of that. And as a result, the people around him are telling him, you go there, you're going to risk some votes over here, and these Negroes going to support you anyway. So we're supposed to watch him respond to everybody else. And we're supposed to wait to the second term? Well, hello, ain't no guarantee there's going to be a second term. There's no guarantee. And if he does get a second term, there still ain't no guarantee that he's going to get around to our issues. So the White House now is putting out all these speaking points and these bullet points. I laugh when I see the critique of Dr. West on the internet. I laugh when I see the critique of me. You can tell the administration is passing around these speaking points. Look at any critique of me, and once you get halfway down, you're going to see about 12 bullet points that they're telling everybody to say to me and West and their critics and those who hold them accountable about what they have done for black folk. Let me be clear. I'm not suggesting that this president doesn't have a whole lot on his plate. He's at the top of my prayer list every day. I'm not suggesting he ain't got a lot on his plate. I'm not suggesting there aren't other constituencies, excuse me, that want and make demands of this White House. What I am suggesting is he can't overlook the people who helped put him there, and that's us. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Reams. I was just wondering, to what extent should Barack Obama compromise with the Republican Congress? And if he does do that, will he be able to be reelected for a second term?
It's a powerful question. When I suggested earlier, brother, that I'm concerned now that he has a divided Congress about his engaging in this Clinton triangulation. Mm-hmm. I think, Gerard, we're going to get a lot more of that. When you're trying to get reelected and you're trying to get points on the board, let me just say this, since I've made a bunch of other unpopular and impolitic comments tonight. Let me just say that I am so glad that y'all have Rahm Emanuel here in Chicago now.
Oh, now see, wait a minute now. Wait
what
a
I mean by that
Tavis.
is...
Whoa, now you know I got to step in now, Tavis.
I'm glad, I'll tell you what I mean. I'll tell you what I mean. I'm glad he's in Chicago and out of the White House.
See.
And here's why I say that. The president, on too many important issues, compromised to your question. Because Rahm's advice to him was, get some points up on the board. You got to get some points on the board if you're going to get reelected. I know you talked about the public option. I know you promised a few other things. I know this health care bill is way watered down. It ain't what you said you were going to do. But you got to get some points up on the board. So we're going to get this done. I know you don't want to give these tax cuts, but we got to get some points on the board. So give in to those, extend those Bush tax cuts. I could do this all night long. Rahm's style as a strategist is to compromise and to capitulate to get points up on the board. For what purpose? For the purpose of getting re-elected. So your principles get compromised. What you said you were going to do, you really don't do. You start negotiating against yourself. When you had both houses of Congress, they controlled both houses of Congress and couldn't get a bigger stimulus package. And when they sent the money to the American people, instead of sending it to the cities through mayors, they sent it to the states through mostly Republican governors. So the money still didn't get down to everyday people. So one, you negotiate against yourself on the stimulus. It wasn't big enough. Then you send it to the people the wrong way. And the whole point of that was to get some points up on the board. So I'm afraid. Now, the point is, that was the strategy when they did control both houses of Congress. Now that we got a divided Congress, this Clinton triangulation is going to get worse on the part of the administration, because now the name of the game is very simple, and we all know it: re-election. It's all about getting re-elected. So I'm afraid, to answer your question, that we're going to see more compromise and more capitulation in the name of getting re-elected.
So before I take these last two questions, Tavis, are you saying that many politicians basically succumb to the, as you term, lucky and to the wealthy so that they can get re-elected? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. that too often.
Let me interrupt you, Tavis.
Come on.
So change we can believe in, all right? I'm gonna help the downtrodden. That's all rhetoric, and I'm not just pointing this at President Barack Obama. I mean any politician, from city government all the way up through national government.
Powerful question. I do not believe it was all rhetoric. I believed, I still believe, I am going to believe, I'm going to make myself believe. That's why faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I'm going to keep faith, keep believing that as long as he's in there, there is the chance that if we keep pushing him lovingly, he will find a stronger spine. He will stand up straighter. He will not compromise as much. He will find that more progressive part of his body, that he can be transformative. I'm never giving up. I'm a hopeful person. I'm not optimistic about much in life, but I'm always hopeful. Optimism suggests there's a particular set of facts, circumstances, conditions, something you can see, feel, or touch that gives you reason to believe that things are going to get better. That ain't my experience as a black man. Hope, even without the evidence, means that I can still believe that things are going to get better. So I believe that Barack Obama can still become a great president, but only if we push him, only if we remind him, only if we hold him accountable. Because left to his own devices and left to the people around him who are in his ear talking to him about re-election strategy, so much of what we hoped for and believed in won't come to fruition. So at the end of the day, Barack Obama, to your point, Gerard, is the first. I just don't want him to be the last. But I know he will be the last if we don't help him become a success. It may be 400 years again before we get this experiment again.
Excellent, excellent. I've got two more questions. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Tavis. Good evening, Gerard.
Hi.
I'm Raelle, and I just relocated back here from Los Angeles to Chicago, and I formed a nonprofit, and I brought my youth and my parenting programs here. My goal is to institute them in the areas where there's significant need. I attended the State of Black Union, by the way, in LA, and I really appreciate you standing for our concerns. My question is to bring it from the macro to the micro, from the grand arena to the home. You had an extremely strong foundation, and what I am seeing is that absence in the black community of our homes being decimated is the root. We can legislate, we can do everything possible that you can imagine, but until those homes become intact again, we're still going to be in orbit. My question to you is, from a nonprofit perspective, as you have a foundation, how would you suggest we reach the parents? Because you can do with the kids forever, but until they keep going back to that toxic household, it's going to continue to grow up weeds.
Yep. The short answer is, and that's a great question, we can do a dissertation on that. But the short answer is that people, I believe, would rather see a sermon than hear a sermon. They'd rather see a sermon than to hear a sermon. All I mean is that those of us who take this work seriously as you do have got to, one, assign ourselves, as you already have, to the task that must be done. Assign yourself. Sometimes, number two, that means making yourself a committee of one. Number three, when you do that, and I've seen it in my own life, I know, I'm a believer, I'm a witness, that courage is contagious. Courage is contagious. People will start to believe because they are connected to your belief that they can do better. But fourthly and finally, this all builds up to this notion that folk would rather see a sermon than hear a sermon. We have to all make ourselves become the kind of living epistles in our community, or what we want our community to be. We have to create, how might I put this? We have to create an image of ourselves and then work to make the future respond to that. Oof. You have to create an image for yourself and then work to make the future conform to the image that you have created for yourself. But I believe that we can't get parents, children, or anybody else in our community to believe unless they can see it. I take these bullets and these darts, all the time. And I'm not whining. I wake up every morning, and the first thing I do is to wash my face, brush my teeth, and take my big boy pill. I take a big boy pill every morning because I don't know what the day is going to bring, but I take my big boy pill because anything's liable to happen in that day. But I just believe that if what we're trying to do is to get people to understand what it means to stand in your truth, to not buckle, to not give in, to not fight back, to not respond by calling names, to not respond by getting in the gut with other folk, to just keep handling your business. While these Negroes are talking about me, I'm working. While they're talking, I'm interviewing. While they're talking, I'm writing books. While they're talking, I'm working with young people. You see my point? I just try to stay focused on what God has called me to do. And I believe that if you want people to believe in something, they got to see you doing it. So you got to be that sermon that they see rather than the sermon that they hear. And that's how I think you get it done. But I think last one.
I thought we had just one question left. This lady here, do you have a statement, sir, or a question?
I have a wrap-up question.
Okay, one moment. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, my name is Sherry Lee, and I would like to know what you think are the roles and responsibilities of entrepreneurs, and how do we build future entrepreneurs in the Black community?
It's a great question. Great question. I will tell you the lesson that I learned, Sherry, from in the book that I tell, that I learned the hard way. When Bob Johnson, I'll tell you the short version as we're wrapping up here. When Bob Johnson fired me at BET, I committed to myself then that I was going to become an entrepreneur. I said to myself, this is the last time that I'm ever going to get fired like this. It's never going to happen again. I said to myself, self, when I wake up in the morning and look in the mirror, I want all of my shareholders to love me. All of them. And they do. You know why? I'm the only shareholder. But I decided then that I would become an entrepreneur. And I promised to myself that I would not go back on the air on television. I love doing television. I promised myself I'm not going back on the air until I own the show. It took me 3 years from the time I got fired to actually make that deal happen on PBS. But I own the PBS show. I own the Tavis Smiley radio show. I own Smiley and West. We built our own office building. I own Smiley Books. I own this. My point is that I appreciate that, and I'm not saying this to be, for bravado. I'm saying that I became an entrepreneur because I wanted to control my own destiny. And that's what works for me. And I tell people, there ain't no law, pardon my English, written nowhere that says you just have to work for somebody else. You can be an entrepreneur. Now, I have a dear friend who told me years ago, and I say this, and I'll get into some trouble for saying this, but y'all will get the point. My friend said to me years ago, whether you believe this or not, Gerard, that white folk go into business to make money, and black folk go into business to be the boss. Now, it's a joke. So, you get the point. All I'm saying to you is, if you're going to go into business, whether you're black or white, go into business for the right reasons. Don't go in just because you don't want anybody to tell you. Ain't nobody going to tell me nothing. That was not my attitude. My thing was I wanted to control my own destiny. And once I got into PBS, public television, and public radio, let me be also frank, I knew that the white folk, respectfully, at public radio couldn't tell me how to build an audience and bring people of color to the party. Because if NPR could have done that, they wouldn't have hired me 40 years too late. If PBS knew how to pull in people of color and not offend the white folk who were watching already, they would have hired me a long time ago. So the point is they didn't know how to do that. So I needed to be in control of the programming and of the content and of the producing and of the booking and of the writing. I needed to do that because I knew how to do it. And I wanted to control my own destiny. So that's why I went into being an entrepreneur. And so that's what it's been all about for me. It's about controlling what I want to put out there. And the other thing I would add to that is that there's so many things that are missing, obviously, in the media every day. And I want to make sure that there are more voices, out there, more women, more people of color who have these opportunities to express themselves as well, and to put some voices out there that are not being heard. But anyway, so my answer to you is that if you're going to be an entrepreneur, make sure you're doing it for the right reasons. And you got to really do it for the right reasons, because when those tough times come, you got to realize why you committed to doing this, why you're really in this when those tough times come. There have been times that I'm looking at how we're going to meet this payroll. And I have to remind myself of why I really got into this in the first place. So being an entrepreneur is a wonderful thing, and we need more in our community. Of course, we got a long and rich history of entrepreneurial genius in our own community. So entrepreneurship, and let me just say to folk who are going through a difficult time, you'd be amazed. I was just reading an article about this the other day. You'd be amazed at the number of people who became successful entrepreneurs in recessions, in down times, after they got fired. I thank God for all the blessings I had prior to owning what I own. But being in control of your own destiny is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Yes, sir.
Sir, you have to make it real quick.
It's real quick.
I really have to
it's
wrap.
Just a very quick question my name is Roy Hobbs. I want to ask you, you've been in the business for 20 years. What was the state of the black community 20 years ago, and where do you see it now, and where do you see it going?
Thank you. It's a good question. Good place to close. That would take 3 hours to answer that question. But the short answer is that I celebrate the progress that we've made, Gerard. As a community, I celebrate all the progress that we have made. It's a great way to close this conversation because it underscores why this book, Fail Up, was written, to remind every one of us that no matter what we go through, no matter what we're enduring, we still have the capacity every day to fail our way up. You got to keep trying again, failing again, and failing better. Try again, fail better. That's what this book is all about in our own community. That's why I'm so serious about holding all leaders, including the president, accountable, because I want to see our community and our country continue to grow. Here's the bottom line. Every one of us in this room tonight, great place to close. I see a diverse audience, Gerard, as you do in front of us tonight. Chicago really is a microcosm of the world, multicultural, multiracial, multi-ethnic, represented in this auditorium tonight. I know one thing we all agree on. With all our differences, there's one thing we all agree on. We all want to live in a nation that one day will be as good as its promise. Nobody's asking for more, and we ought not settle for less. We all want to live in a nation that one day will be as good as its promise. The truth is, there is right now in this country a gap, a divide between the promise of America and the possibility in America for all of us. And so we have to work every day to do our part to make this nation a nation as good as its promise. And that includes not just black, not just white, not just red, brown, or yellow, but all of us. And I celebrate all of you tonight. Thank you for coming.
Mm-hmm. Yes. 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 Mr. Tavis Smiley, we thank you so much for your time, your talents, and this wonderful book, Fail Up. I'm sure that it will push someone beyond the threshold of failure into the world of success. You have been a spectacular audience this evening. Stay positive, and as I always say, you need to keep your head up and always be encouraged. Have a good night.
Years ago, someone